Hello everybody, Kelly Rice here, but I write under the pen name KM Rice. And first off, I just want to apologize because I know it's been a few weeks since my last vlog post. And part of that is because for about 3 of those weeks I was traveling abroad, as many of you learned in my last episode. I went to Ireland, I went to Scotland, and it was amazing. And so in this episode I'm just going to sort of talk to you a little bit about why, as a writer, it was very important for me to go to Ireland this year. And that would be because of one man, Padraig Pearse. Now, if you've followed me on social media for a while, you'll know that I've mentioned him before because I write beside this photo of him. This is a picture on a postcard that I bought the first time I went to Ireland 10 years ago, believe it or not. And he was a quiet man. He was a teacher, he was a scholar, he was a poet, he was a writer. He was also a socialist revolutionary. Now, in 1916, in the midst of World War I, Ireland was still part of the British Empire. They were governed by the British, and though they had been promised home rule, which would be the ability to self-govern, like Canada was doing at the time, they were denied it for the duration of the war, and many feared that the government would use it to prolong the absence of self-governing in Ireland by continuing to deny home rule. So a group of rebels decided that enough is enough, and very much like what we did here in this country in the 1700s, they wrote a Declaration of Independence called the Proclamation, and they struck for freedom. So Padraig Pearse, on Easter Monday in 1916, chose the General Post Office in Ireland, Dublin, I should say, and I got distracted while saying that because I got excited because I remembered that I'm wearing my GPO shirt. This is so much of a history nerd. This is as much of a history nerd as I am. I mean, like, who else is walking around with a t-shirt that has a post office on it? So GPO, that's short for the General Post Office. It's not just a post office, though. It's a very important building in Dublin. It was, it had many different uses over the years, but in 1916 it was the General Post Office, and it was sort of the hubbub of all communication in Dublin. And Dublin, of course, is the capital of Ireland. So it was a very symbolic and strategically important building. The walls were also something crazy like 6 feet thick. So it was also a defensive position. So on Easter Monday, Padraig Pearse stepped out onto the steps and he read the Proclamation of Independence. And at the time, most people had no idea what was going on, and they were confused, and they thought, what is this pageantry? And he and his forces, they went around and they put up the proclamation on different buildings so that the public could read it. And they took over the General Post Office. They took over several key government buildings in Dublin, and this resistance continued for a week. The English, of course, responded by sending in soldiers that were already stationed there, bringing more soldiers in to suppress the rebellion, and, for good or ill, sailing gunships up the River Liffey and shelling Dublin, portions of Dublin, to the ground. A lot of civilians died, a lot of rebels died. English soldiers died. It wasn't a pretty thing. and it certainly was not successful for the rebels. They surrendered after only a week, and they were all led away by the English or British, and many of the people of Ireland saw them just as troublemakers, and they had rotten fruit and vegetables thrown at them as they were led away by the police, or by the soldiers, sorry, the military. And they were taken to a prison. And one by one, all the signatories of the proclamation were shot by firing squad, executed. They were given sort of mock trials by the British. And in that situation, Padraig Pearse himself had sort of an opportunity to downplay his role and to downplay what their ultimate goal was in striking for freedom. And he refused to do so, knowing full well that he was signing his death warrant. In fact, that's one of the reasons I admire these men and women so much. Even though there aren't female names on the proclamation itself, there were a lot of women who held very key, powerful roles, often with bearing arms, shooting at people in the Rising. But they've since been swept under the rug a little bit because of politics that followed once Ireland did become a free state. But, to get back to my point, I admire Padraig Pearse so much because he was a man who, from the outside, you would never think capable of doing something like this, but he was such an idealist that he followed his dreams to this extreme. Even in his prison cell, he was writing poetry for his mother to try to console his mother because he knew he was going to be killed. And he made the decision to sacrifice himself for his country, because he knew that Ireland was at a point where once they had so many martyrs, the country was gonna turn. And he was right, because in 1919, then, the revolution proper started. And that's a different subject, but that is when the Republic of Ireland was formed, first the Free State of Ireland, then the Republic of Ireland, and that's the country we know today. That is an independent nation. And I find it so inspiring because it's a reminder to me that words matter, that your intent behind the words matter, that your ideals matter. And so I write with Padraig Pearse's photo next to me on my desk to make sure that that's always in my consciousness. Now obviously I'm not writing political doctrines, I'm not striking for freedom, but as many of you know, I do consider myself a feminist. You've had to go through all my posts about Bernie Sanders this election, so I am someone who does care about ideals and who is striving to make the world, or at least my little influence on the world, a place of more equality in whatever way that I can. I don't actually think that I can affect that much change, but just through sharing information and sharing ideas, it helps open people's minds, and it helps educate, and the more ideas you're exposed to, the more likely you are to see other people with empathy, and to treat other people with kindness and empathy and understanding rather than judging when you first meet them or encounter them. So I've kind of got on a deep rant there. But in short, that's one of the reasons why I was so desperate to get to Ireland in 2016, because it is the centenary, the 100 years ago this event happened in Ireland. And being in Dublin for the centenary, even though I wasn't there for the actual day I had desperately wanted to be, but that's when our dog Taylor got sick, and I chose instead to stay home and take care of her because that was really important. And she did end up passing away. It was really hard. But I was really glad that I was there to take care of her the whole time. But just being there in the year 2016 Dublin is celebrating this now. You know, it was something that was viewed with a lot of shame for a while because it did cause death and destruction. But now it's something that's being embraced. Women's roles are being highlighted because they were swept under the rug for so long. And to me, as this history nerd, you know, I'm telling you guys, who are probably largely an American audience about this, and I'm trying to provide some context and history because most Americans have no clue what I'm talking about, and I just walk around being like, 1916, Padraig Pearse, telling history, and everyone's like, okay, don't know what you're on about, but whatever, you're into it, cool. And there I was among my people. There I was among people who were like, oh yep, that's Pearse's house. Oh, that's where he surrendered, right on that corner there, and oh, look, there's bullet holes inside of the GPO still. And it was just like, as my sister put it was like a History Nerds Comic Con. If you're into this stuff, it was just literally everywhere, and I was just so excited that, you know, I'm buying my freaking t-shirts with the post office on them, and running around to all the different locations, and I had 4 days total, I think, in Dublin, and it was not enough. But I'm really glad I went. I'm really glad I did that. That aside, I'm going to insert some footage here so that you can see some more glimpses of Ireland itself. So that'll be it for me today, and I hope you enjoy this footage, and I hope you've learned a little something about a writer and a man whose life and death has greatly inspired me and influenced me to be the best that I can when I am writing, and just to remind myself that that intent does matter, and that words matter. Alright, if I haven't completely bored you to death, enjoy this footage of Ireland, and some of Scotland, and I'll see you next time. So please also, I forgot to mention, remember to subscribe if you do somehow find yourself crazy enough to enjoy these vlogs, because as you've noticed, they are erratic, and I apologize for the gap in them lately. But if you subscribe, you'll get notified every time there's a new one, so you won't have to go through the effort of checking back and seeing when I've posted.
Show your wife how you won medals down in Flanders. Tell her how the IRA made you run like fellow from the green and lovely lanes of Kilshire.
God, look at this hair.
No. For us is Scotch pine.
Oh, okay.
Life springs from death, and from the graves of patriot men and women spring living nations. The defenders of this realm have worked well in secret and in the open. They think that they have pacified Ireland. They think that they have purchased half of us and intimidated the other half. They think that they have foreseen everything. Think that they have provided against everything. But the fools, the fools, the fools. They have left us our Fenian dead. And while Ireland holds these graves, Ireland unfree shall never be at peace.
Oh wow, looking back that way.
And the clouds.
you're a good dog. Hello, honey.
So, from me, and a little Irish sheep with a shamrock on its bum. See you next time. I probably didn't actually trick any of you into thinking that was a still again. That was probably a one-time thing.